And there we are. We're live. Oh, shoot. It's like daylight there and it's daylight here. It almost feels like we're actually in the same time zone, even though you're like 7 hours ahead or 6 hours ahead.
My friend, who's a professional disc golfer, got into Norway last night and posted on Instagram at him throwing a shot at the course that they're playing this week and put the time 11 p.m. And it was still basically like when I look on the weather app, it says that there's a sunset and sunrise, but it doesn't feel like there is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's probably what, maybe 16, 17 hours of daylight there.
The sunset's like listed at 10:40 p.m. and the sunrise is listed at 2:15 a.m. So less than that even, or more than that.
Yeah.
I mean, I spent a lot of time with Saud today, and you know, in his religion, they pray at sunrise. So he's like waking up at 2:15, 2:30 in the morning to do the morning prayers and then going back to sleep.
Yeah. Let's go ahead. Let's take care of some business real quick. Hit that QR code at the bottom. Follow Homegrown Relief for a chance to win $50 store credit. Again, HDR CBD. It's the preferred recovery. And I mean, what else for you, Brian? I mean, obviously we know how much you love the Relief Stick. I mean, you swear by it. Taylor Self, who HDR CBD, they sponsor their show too. He swears by it. I know the pet relief that they use for anti-anxiety. My parents, I mean, obviously they love it, but any testimonials regarding HDR and some of the products?
Yeah, I mean, I use a lot more of their products when I'm home than on the road. I travel pretty light, but when I'm home, I take the super greens in the morning with the first glass of water I have, which I drink a big glass of water every morning anyway. And I mean, it's clean products. That's the main thing that I've learned from working with Carl and talking to Carl is he takes a lot of pride in the ingredients. And he actually gets like pretty frustrated with the ingredients that are in other similar or comparable products that are on the market or popular in the ecosystem that we're a part of. And I know that that's a big deal for him. I know that, you know, a lot of people that we interact with and listen to our stuff, like they're very healthy people that are conscious of what goes in their body and how they treat their body in general. So it's nice to work with a company that prioritizes that and where it's not, you know, something that's a really concern. I travel with the Relief Stick because it's just easier, but the Solve that you can like apply with your fingers, that's what Taylor really loves. And I do use that when I'm home more. And then the CBD gummies, I take those a lot before bed. I just have one.
Well, as always, thanks to Carl and that whole team at Homegrown Relief for the support. As always, they're our first main sponsor that we've had for our podcast, and you know we wouldn't be able to do without them. And we're glad to have them on board and be a part of our family, and glad that we can kind of be an avenue for them to get into the space as well. So thank you, HDR CBD. Please scan that QR code. You know, have a chance to get $50 store credit, and don't forget use friend 20 for 20% off your purchase at checkout as well. So let's just start off with CrossFit. I mean, there's a lot of things circling around CrossFit. So let's just start off with just CrossFit, and let's start off with we have our second event and we have our first event of the competition. It was released yesterday, and I don't think they're speaking of Carl. There he is. So yeah, let's just start with that. Event 1. It's a run swim. Sorry.
I've been listening to, because now Roger's gone. I'm at his house. It's really nice of him and his wife to trust me with his house and his car. But I've been driving around, and like a lot of cities, you know, everything is like 20 to 30 minutes away in Oslo. And I don't know how to use his car super well. So I've just been putting on like Spotify episodes on my phone while I'm driving around. And I was listening to an episode of Get With The Programming that Bill and Chase did with JR, where they were talking about some of the things they'd like to see in the CrossFit Games. And Chase, one of the things that he listed was that he wanted to see basically a swimming elimination workout in a pool. And I was like 100% on board. I've talked about this before, that would like just like a race in the
Yeah.
pool. And, you know, he had a specific format that he talks about, whatever. And this is the total opposite of that. Now, there are some things nostalgically, historically, whatever, that we can lean into that Halpin has kind of illuminated. I'm not sure if he's writing about it with the Morning Chalk Up or if he's just putting on his Instagram, but obviously the first event in Madison era was a run, swim, run. There was an iconic beach event back in the day in Carson. It was the first swim. And here we have a run, swim as the first event in a new location again. So, I mean, the one in California wasn't the first ever event there. That was Amanda, but there was the year that, you know, it was a kind of an iconic event, that original beach event with the mile run at the end in the sand. And I just I think about I just continuously am thinking about how to make this sport digestible for people who are coming to it. And when I listen to Chase talk about that event, that is digestible, that is watchable, that is exciting, that is easy to comprehend. And when I look at this event, while it's an amazing, you know, test, you run and you swim, it's a great test of fitness, and it probably fits really well within the totality of the programming that Dave is laying out. It's really hard to watch. It's really hard to gain any meaningful value about the quality of people that are Roger. Okay, I'll do that. It's really hard to gain any like intel about the swimmers. So, you know, they're going to run to the water, and we'll probably have you know, some kind of cart that's with them, or maybe they're running around the water and we have a drone and we'll be able to watch that stuff. But probably if it's you know, this lake that Spin is talking about, if that's the lake they're swimming in, more likely than not, they're going to get in the water, and it's really difficult to keep track of who's where after maybe the leader or the, you know, one or top couple people. And then people will climb out of the water, run across the finish line, and it's like, oh, it's over. So I just don't love it from that regard. From a fitness perspective and entering into the test, it's fine. But I would rather see something in terms of the swimming test that is meaningful. You know, even in the context of that conversation, Bill talked about the workout they did at the games in California one year that had swim, then kettlebell clean and jerks and burpees, and then you get in the water again. Or you look up at the workout that Taylor, Self, and Bryson Del Monte did the other day, where they did Grace, swim, Isabel. Like, even this type of workout where they're in open water is more digestible and more meaningful to the audience to be able to comprehend, because I could put a stopwatch on or whatever the broadcast could. I could see Taylor's split time for Grace. I could see his split time in the water. I could see his split time for Isabel, and I could compare it to Bryson's. Well, at the games, I could compare every heat, the best person in every heat. We could have a benchmark, like a checkpoint, or even after the fact, if it was a mass start in something like that where everyone was doing Grace, you know, you could look back and say like, wow, you know, Lazar Jukic was a minute behind Roman after Grace, but he came out of the water 30 seconds ahead of him, and then he only beat him by 5 seconds, meaning that Roman had a negative split of 25 seconds on Isabel. Like, that's a meaningful analysis. Then we can start to talk about how good Lazar is in the water and how the good swimmers actually were able to win this workout, even by cruising through the first 30 clean and jerks. You know, I'm making up a hypothetical, but in the run swim, it's like, okay, you know, like run, swim, run. It was an epic event. It was an epic event.
I mean, I understand it. I get that, and you know, I won't say I'm not surprised. I am surprised, because knowing that the showman that Dave is, that, you know, something. I'm not disagreeing with any of your points, but at the end of the day, I actually do somewhat applaud Dave, because he's not. At the end of the day, we're trying to find the fittest, not trying to find the fittest where it looks like a great, you know, where it looks good on TV or whatever. He has plenty of other things to do that. It's fine to have one or two events where maybe it isn't the best thing, but in the totality of finding the fittest, I think this is an excellent test. But yeah, maybe it isn't in terms of because we don't know the totality of the test. But you know, but having a swim, having a run, having something that's, you know, an endurance, you know, obviously an endurance test like this, where it's 4 miles. We don't know how much of it's going to be in the water, or how much. I imagine, you know, how it's going to be split up. But you know, it's the first event. We always know the first event of the games, it'll be Thursday morning, more than likely. It probably won't have that many views. It's not a prime time event. So if you're going to do something, yeah, do it on that. That's why they do it the first event, because they're not going to have 100% viewership or that much interest. People are going to come and go. People are still going to watch on YouTube, on ESPN Plus, or wherever it's going to be showing, which we'll talk about ESPN and their partnership here in a second. But I think yes, from an analytical standpoint, yes, they could do more. Maybe they might. We don't know that yet. But I mean, from again, a lot of details are out there. A lot of people have been doing. The only detail we know is that it's 4 miles roughly. We don't know if it's even exact 4 miles. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's whoever wins this event wins the event, and possibly the location. I mean, everyone's saying that it's Marine Creek Reservoir. I mean, which totally makes sense. It's a 6 miles around, as a running trail, 6 miles around, multiple docks. So I think it's an excellent location. I've reached out to some people. They said the water there is, fine. We don't have to worry about any water situations or anything like that, like they have in Madison, but or whatever. But yeah, that's just my opinion on it. But I totally see your argument on it, Brian.
Well, and that was actually was leading to something. It's not just a complaining or whatever.
I know. Yeah.
When people watch triathlons, right? So here's the thing. What I would love to see, because I agree with you, Lynn and Patrick, that this is still a valid test, and I have no problem with the run swim as a test. But at this point, can we come up with some solution to make the swimming more trackable?
Mm-hmm.
It could be as simple as putting a number on a swimming cap, or putting colors plus numbers on swimming caps, or something that embeds into some kind of a tracking device that identifies them, so that, and then after the fact, is it that much to ask to actually give us the run splits and the swim splits? Something to digest.
The technology's there. The technology's there. I've seen it used. The NFL has something similar. When I went to when I first came back from my deployment, I worked for a company called Z Technologies, and part of what they're doing is they're doing the next level stats. So in players' shoulder pads, they had GPSs in there. You can figure out how fast. I mean, that's why you can get all this data about, like, these athletes, their top end strength or top end speed on these touchdown runs and stuff like that. The technology's out there, and it's very, very minimal. And I think I talked to you about it, about like how they do the mic in for the NBA finals or for the NBA. It's literally a pack that weighs less than probably a quarter of an ounce that's sewn into the jersey. I mean, maybe we're not there yet, because again, that technology costs money, and maybe that's something that they can look at in the future. But
even something like this, Barkley Dale, region color and semifinal place on cap, it could be just something. And there's we have rep counters for all the other events. How hard would it be to just have a rep counter that's like, oh, here comes Brent Fikowski, he's in the water, he's out of the water, got his split time. Barkley could do that on his own, honestly. Maybe the broadcast will pick him up.
Yeah.
And Barkley, well, it's hard. I've tried to do it as a fan. I've tried to do it as a volunteer, and I've tried to do it as part of the broadcast. But they start coming in packs, and it's hard to identify them, because there's but put a color on it, and you can see it so. And then second thing I wanted to say is, because I've also mentioned this before, is I don't think this will happen this year, primarily because of finances and budget, but we don't have to be limited to one swimming test. We've talked about the fact that they often have a variety of running tests, and do we know for sure they're actually going to show the event? I guess not, but I would think yes. And that, could we have a secondary test that is more in lines of along the lines of what Chase was talking about, where it's a quick sprint in a pool? And I think that in the context of 4 days of competition, that would be really cool. And I don't think, like I said, I don't think it'll happen this year, but I do hope that at some point we have a long swim with a short swim, or a swim with interference, and on a sprint swim or something like that.
Yeah.
Split times now more for analytics guys, but just for someone watching, it's just to hear their name.
Yeah. Hopefully more details will come out regarding that event, and hopefully it's something where we know how it was at Madison, where they didn't really have seating for people, but you could come out and watch. So,
but just tell me, run, swim, run. What do you remember about it?
I was judging for that. So I was in one of the parking lots as they were coming out. So it was after the second run, and my job was to kind of direct people on this turn on the run back. So what I remember about that is there's a guy it was my first games judging, and Rich Froning came by with Ellie Kabord, and I'm like, oh, when they come back, can you get a picture of me pointing this away? So I actually have that picture. So that's what I remember about that event. But what I do remember but watching it on TV, what I do remember is that race at the finish for the individuals. You know,
Yeah, of course.
Tia, Brent,
That's the iconic,
Gary,
memorable
and,
thing.
and the mass start. That mass start was just like Ricky going out hot, and I was like, who the hell is that guy? And they're like, oh no, he's a rookie, and those are the things I remember. That's it. That people want to see the mass start and they want to see the ending, and But
yeah, I couldn't tell you a single thing that happened in the water apart from what athletes have told me, and in some
sure.
cases years after the fact.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to say about this is, because it's been announced as an event, I actually am hoping that they do the exact same event for the teams as a cumulative time event. We've talked about this in the past with running, and compared to weightlifting, that everyone's going to do an Olympic total and you get the total weights, or one person snatches, one person whatever, but you're all going to score whether you're good or bad at this weightlifting event. But you already have the space, you're already setting it aside. Let the individuals go, then let the teams go, all the exact same thing. Yes, for the analytics guys, that would be cool. We can see if there's any team athletes that would have popped up and won the individual event, or where they would have placed or whatever. And then you can, if you are a team athlete that happens to be great at running and swimming, boom, you can have a huge impact on your team. And if you have someone who's terrible at it, trouble. Athletes kicked in the head during the swim. That always happens. So anyway, that's kind of a lot of conversation about that. But go ahead.
Before we put a bow on that, who do you favoring in that workout? With what we know,
James Sprague, Tia Claire Toomey.
Okay, I'm gonna go. I mean, again, we don't know, but I like those picks. I also do like the Fikowski pick. Someone to watch over, and I don't know how good of a runner she is, but I know she's a very good swimmer. Someone like Grace Walton. I think the run's probably going to weigh more heavier than the swim in this event. But I still think you're going to see some separation in the run. Lazar's a good pick too. I do like Lazar. Henrik Hapalainen, good. No, yeah, sure. But yeah, I think. But yeah, Tia. I mean, that's a pretty. That's. I think.
Well, here's the thing that I do remember about the run swim run that you didn't mention, besides the breakout, was that there was whether it was Ricky or I think there was one other or two other guys that were really pushing the pace and pulled everyone into a faster mile run, their first mile, than they wanted to run.
Yeah.
And if I am a James Sprague or Lazar Jukic or Brent Fikowski, and you have the opportunity to do that, going for the Aussies, Ricky and Emily, then I love that idea, because there's a talent of being able to recover your breath in the water. And if you watch back that event I was talking about with Taylor and Bryson, it's a nice one because they actually talk about that exact experience. And Taylor, having an experienced swimming background, like his heart rate was high, but he's like, I got halfway there and then I was able to settle into a rhythm. If I pull you out of your comfort zone, and I know that I'm going to be uncomfortable that first 100, 200, 300 meters, but I'm going to recover from it, and you're not, then you can really force the other person to make a decision. Are they going to try to keep up, or are they going to say no, I trust that I'll get them in the water?
Yeah, I can see Ricky definitely pushing that pace, especially if it's like a 3-mile run and maybe a mile swim, because he can push that pace and recover in that swim, because he's not the best swimmer, but he's better than probably 80% of the field on the men's side. But yeah. So there was someone else I was going to bring up regarding swimming, but oh well, kind of slipped my. Yeah, Emily's another one. Emily Rolfe. Should be another good pick as well. So, but yeah, Halpin put up some great stuff on his known and knowable. Just breaking down some of the splits, some similarities, differences, stuff like that. So if you get a chance, check that out. Like I said, a little bit of throwback. The one thing I do remember is I have a picture. Remember that walkway at the finish line they had that the athletes walk over to get to the athlete area? The finish line was right in front of that. I was the only person standing on that walkway taking pictures as the rainstorm was coming up to the finish. So it's pretty cool. I have pictures above from that ramp. But It's kind of an epic finish. Okay, so something else that was announced. And again, if you're not watching those Dave interviews, I figured you probably caught up with some of those Dave interviews. But Dave announced, and again, we're gonna source helping for this, that Chad will be the eliminating event, the cut event, the event that leads into the cuts. So this is something that I think we discussed when we mentioned, hey, when Dave mentioned there was going to be a twist, everyone's like, oh, what is it going to be? Stairs, blah, blah, blah. And I think I mentioned something regarding the twist. The twist might be something as simple as it might lead into seating, or, and I think that's pretty much, that could be the twist unless he does something different. But from the way it sounds, it looks like it's going to be basic Chad, maybe advancing the box, every 100. But the twist is it's the cutting, and I think that's what the twist is.
Yeah, and I think I've heard some others say that, just scrolling through Instagram and whatever. But I mean, I think one, it's good marketing by Dave. I think it was Wad Zombie or the Evening Wipe Down or whatever that put up the thing about Dave having emergency back surgery for carrying the media team. Like, but if you're embedding information like this into these videos, then it gives more incentive for more people to want to watch them, which I actually like that, because I am with Dave. I think there are a lot of people who can digest this information and come away with one or two things that are either new information about an athlete, or fun information about an athlete, or information about an athlete that they can relate to, because some of the athletes have been vulnerable about certain things. Overall, yeah, it's like the game's revelations leading up to it, and even during the week, it's like a giant puzzle. And so now we have a piece that's kind of fitting in. We see it on Saturday morning. We know it's right before the cut. It says it's event number 7. So now you're just, my mind immediately goes, okay, well, this feels like a 3 events per day type of a game. So we'll have 3 on Thursday, 3 on Friday, that one on Saturday, 2 more, 3 on Sunday, 12 events like that. That's like where my mind kind of goes with that sort of thing, which is fine. But then I also think about the fact that Friday night is late. It's like 8 to 10 p.m. in Texas, and then turn around after a late night and do Chad in the morning. And now we're getting into that element of what I was talking about. I spoke about it kind of in reverse, of being able to recover and then repeat a hard effort in a relatively short amount of time. So whatever happens at the football field, then you got to wake up Saturday morning and know that Chad is waiting for you. And if you're on the cut line, that your life at the CrossFit Games is going to depend on 1,000 step-ups, plus or minus whatever the twist might be.
Yeah. I like
asked about the run distances here. I think, Barkley put this thing in the chat here. I don't know if this is right. 3 + 1, 3 miles, 1 mile, but could be.
It's speculation. Yeah. But that's what I think. It'll probably be a 3.1. Especially if you're, like I said, there's 2 boat docks. I can see him entering one dock and exiting and finish line on the other. But I like it. Again, you know how I feel about my Chads and my thoughts about it. I think it's cool. Again, you get to see the best athletes in the world bring attention to something that I think is very important. You get to see it at the highest level. You get to see athletes now pushing themselves, especially ones at the cap. What this reminds me is 2019 Mary, because that was they did a cut after Mary in 2019, correct?
They did a cut after every event. 2019, but Mary, no. This is not like
they cut so much.
Because there's nothing you could do in Mary if you're Brent Fikowski. You could not make up the amount of time over the reps. It was 500 reps, 400 reps, whatever it was. In this, you can take a risk and a gamble if you have to.
Yeah. Well, I meant in terms of just bringing some intrigue to it. Even reminds me of last year, when they cut to 30 or 40. When when it was Helena, you knew someone. Those earlier heats.
Helena,
but
now
now
better
you're gonna
example.
that Helena. But Helena is but the thing with Helena though is that you didn't know until every heat was finished. Here you're going to have all the women out on one heat, and you'll know pretty. I don't know. It's just going to be
Well,
cool
we
to see.
can, this is the thing between Chad Schroeder, Barkley, Halpin. I don't even know if I'll bother with something like this, but those guys will take care of it. They will be able to present the scenarios before the workout starts to say, okay, Patrick has an X number of points lead over Brian. That means if Patrick finishes in this place or better, Brian can't catch him. But if Brian finishes 3 spots ahead of him, of course, the points scale down. So you could actually know the exact scenarios as they're happening to say, like, that's it. He didn't do enough. He's out. And he's still working.
Yeah. And the athletes are going to know that. I mean, most of them will. Their coaches will let
Some
them
of them will know. This has
to
actually been one of the coolest things this year that's been a good experience for me on the road. In fact, I was talking with Andrea Solberg, and she mentioned something about this with regards to Sahar from last year's games. It's amazing the number of athletes that I've spoken to about the Olympic lifting event last year, which was the event before the final cut. And so you take it. I can't remember who the other athlete was, but I was talking to one European athlete, and he's like, I knew going into that workout that there were 3 guys and only 2 of us were going to make the cut. And one of the guys was in my heat. And I knew that if I didn't lift the same as him on the snatch, that I couldn't advance. Or what, some scenario, maybe it was on the clean and jerk. That was second. I couldn't advance. And so the guy had the earlier heat than him, or the earlier spot in the heat, because they were cycling through, and he loaded to a specific weight. And so this guy was like, I have to load it to that weight. Then that guy dropped his weight, and he didn't have time to respond. And now he's in a different mental headspace. He's going, I'm going for a weight that I actually don't have to hit. I could have dropped my weights and done this way. And it totally messed him up. And he missed the lift and he missed the cut. And the last day's events were great for him. And he feels like
Who was it that we interviewed? Who was it that said that?
Happalainen.
Oh yeah, it was Henrik. Yeah, because and Sahar was kind of, you brought it talking to Andrea, but Sahar was kind of same position. She was right at that cut line. She actually was, I think, like 19th going into that event. So she was safe, but we knew that was going to be a tough event for her. She was the second smallest athlete in the field. She also had a little bit problems converting kilos to pounds on that, especially in the snatch. But she had hit her first snatch, which was supposed to be her ending. She hit her. It was just crazy like that. But yeah, I mean,
the point is that there's a lot of thought and nuance that goes into the cuts specifically around, or the event specifically around the cuts, because at that point, Happalainen's not thinking, oh, I want to get 20th and not 23rd. No, or in 21st and not 23rd. No, he's like, all I need to do is get in the top 20. And if I don't get in the top 20, I don't care. It's life or death. So they'll take risks on the cut line. And that's what I think Dave is hoping for. And that's what we'll definitely get. And then we'll be able to, much in the same way that we do at the final of the semifinals, we'll be able to hone in on a few athletes. Of course, it's over the span of a long workout instead of a 2 or 3 minute sprint that we get at the semifinal finals, where we actually miss the winners sometimes at expense of the cut line story. So we'll be able to tell plenty of storylines throughout that and have a good understanding, but also potentially a good insight into the mindset for that cut. And if I was involved in any kinds of behind the scenes, whether CrossFit's doing something or Sevon's doing something or anybody else is doing something, I would be asking these questions. Hey, you're on the cut line. Are you aware of who the other athletes are? Are you going to deviate your plans? Are you going to base a plan off of theirs or whatever? And then similarly, after the fact, have these attentive people watching that they can ask specific questions to those athletes. I saw that around the 500 rep mark, you decided to change your technique or to do 20 in a row on the right before 20 in a row on the left, whereas before you were doing 10. It's like, oh yeah, maybe you get an answer for someone. Well, I figured out that if I did twice as many in a row on one side, I could save 2 seconds over the course of 200 reps or whatever, So there might be a lot of opportunity for that, because I think those details of those stories specifically pertaining to the cuts are often missed or lost, but because they're hard to tell, but they're going on. So I hope we can capture some of that.
Yeah. Again, sticking with cross. Again, I love this part of the year when CrossFit's just dumping a lot of stuff on us. Especially there have been years where they haven't done that. Seems like now, granted, I don't agree with it all coming out on Dave, and much coming out through Dave, but at the same time, good on Dave. At least someone's doing it. But the demo team was announced, and I put a post up, and I'm excited about this team because of I know a lot of these athletes personally, and they're great people, and it's a great opportunity for them. I said, in terms of like the best demo team, if you had to stack demo teams, I think it's right up there with the 2021 demo team. Now, granted, you can take that for what it's worth. I know you have a differing opinion about this, but in terms of name value, these are some of the top names that you aren't going to see at the games. And
in North America.
From North America. From North America. But they're all name recognition athletes. I mean, but yeah. Brian, your thoughts?
You're not right. I mean, you're not wrong about the caliber of these athletes. They're obviously very, very good. There's a ton of potential. There's two things that jump off the page at me. One is I'm a little bummed that there's no international representation, similarly to the way that I was bummed that there was no international representation during the open announcements. There's a lot of talk about growth of the sport, and you and I have talked a lot about the opportunities and the areas where the growth is the highest. You don't have to send your full team international to do an international announcement. You can hire talent in different parts of the world. There's athletes everywhere that you could use. It doesn't have to be whatever that's for the open. And this is a demo team, and you're thinking like, well, then there's a lot of expense to bring people in internationally. Not necessarily. There are actually some athletes like David Shrunke that's going to be at the games anyway. Now, you're going to say, well, his girlfriend's competing. Okay, well, Sydney Wells is on the team and her sister's competing in the games. So that's not a valid argument to me. Andrea Solberg, like you said, she's traveling in with Sahara prior to the games. If she got offered to be on the demo team, would she stay and do it? Potentially. Were these solutions even sought out? Because to me, it's like, well, realistically, what's the extra cost of bringing someone in from an international? It's probably $1,000 of a plane ticket difference. But what's the value in the long run of maintaining a touch point with the international audience for CrossFit as a whole? It could be substantially more than that. They don't, if the international community is just like, wow, great demo team, 5 people from North America and 1 or from USA and 1 Canadian that lives in Miami. Now, James Sprague told me that Tudor Magda is Romanian, but no. His family might have heritage in Romanian, but anyway, I think it's a missed opportunity. There was so much talk about the talent in Europe. They got slashed on some spots. There's definitely got to be a way to bring a European there that maintains the level of interest. Just one would maintain a level of interest. And it's like, what's the potential cost? Maybe there's 5 affiliates that don't renew because they're never going to have this value in Europe. Well, you've lost a lot more money than that $1,000 plane ticket. So this is just one of the thoughts that I had. Go ahead.
Sarah does bring a good point. Does it matter for representation? The demo team doesn't get any time on the broadcast. They do here and there.
No. Spend some time internationally. I have seven international trips this past year, 14, 15 different competitions. It matters a lot. There's a ton of things that CrossFit Games and CrossFit HQ do that they don't, I believe, based on the conversations that I've had in these communities, that they don't see the impact that it has on the international community and the way that it's received. And there are a lot of people that take this as a kind of a passive aggressive slight against the international CrossFit community and just a continuing pattern of being very USA or North American centric in this regard.
I really don't think it is a slight. I think there's a lot more.
I'm not saying it's a slight or not.
Yeah.
I'm saying that it's perceived that way.
Sure.
That if it's perceived that way, that it has some value. There's perception is reality for some people.
Sure.
And it has
but
an effect.
I think that's also comes down to what we've always talked about before is like, hey, why don't you talk about because the reason a lot of what goes into the demo team is also availability, not just for the games, but availability to come on a moment's notice. Like Dave has to literally call you and be like, hey, I'm putting you on a flight. you got to come out to Aromas and test this workout, or Boz has to call they have to
The
hold.
testing athletes do not have to be the demo athletes all the time. And you
No.
don't have to use all the demo athletes in testing, because
True.
a lot of the people, Dave has talked about this, a lot of the testing has to take place on site. And that'll lead into the second kind of critique, if I was to have one. And again, this is nothing to do with these athletes. These athletes are amazing, commendable people, love all of them, huge potential, talent, etc. There's a lot of similar athletes here. And when I'm thinking about a demo team, I want a diverse group of people. I'm sorry, I don't want Scott Tetlow and Colt Mertens on my demo team. I'm going to get the same feedback from testing those two athletes. I don't want Annika Greer and Trista Smith on the same demo team. I'm going to get the same feedback. I want someone who's as strong as the strongest athletes in the field, who's as fast as the fastest athletes, who's as skilled as the skilled athletes. And I want men and women that check those boxes. And if you look at past demo teams, you see specialists like Griffin Raleigh, or you see specialists like Victor Hoffer that can do these things and send a really strong message to Dave about what the max potential is. There's specific tests that I could throw out there. Let's say the run swim. You're going to test these three guys and find out what a really good time on the run swim is? No, you're not.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know with something like that event, there really isn't that much testing involved, you know. But a lot of the max and some of the key points, that's when Dave does call in individual athletes, or they do it in Columbus, Ohio, at Rogue. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's going to be fine tuned. And I think that's what I was trying to get at, is that we don't need to, but if for us to kind of avoid talking about stuff like this, just put the criteria, what you're looking for in a demo team.
I mean, look, someone said in here, or maybe you said it about the drop of a hat, and people, you could send out you don't have to just say, hey, do you want to be on the team? You could send out an email to a dozen international athletes and say, are any of you guys planning to be at the games anyway?
Yeah.
Or even what would it take for you to come to the games and be on the demo team? What would you need? And then you can evaluate it. If Coach is like, I need $5,000 travel expenses, you're like, nope, not paying that.
Yeah.
But if he's like, yeah, buy my plane ticket and take care of me like the normal demo team, I would love to do it. Okay, I can evaluate that. I'll make a spreadsheet. I'll do a little cost cost. What is it? Analysis. Anyway, you get the point.
Yeah, yeah, but again, the demo team, they play a big part during the games week. But at the end of the day, it's like they're not getting. They don't play. That's behind the scenes. We're not going to see much of them. I mean, in terms of that stuff like that. And I think I think this is a good demo team. I really do. In terms of, like I said, I know a lot of them personally. But gosh, yeah, thank you, Lynn. And I think it's a great opportunity too, especially for someone like Annika and Trista, who haven't made the games. They haven't had that introduction to that, the pomp and circumstance, the feel of that. I know for a lot of athletes, it means a lot.
They're in Norway? Damn.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll pass by Oslo tomorrow. Could see them. Should reach out to Yona and find out where they are. Biking through Norway would be cool.
And then again, we'll stick with it. ESPN. Da 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 da. It's back.
Yeah. Nice with the music there. This is great. You could say I'm being a little nitpicky about some of these other things, but I think they're fair. I think they're fair points of conversation. I'm not upset by the demo team athletes. I'm not upset by the run swim programming. I just think that it's worth considering some of these points of view. Honestly, it's one of the reasons that I'm doing what I'm doing, is to get the perspective from a diverse group of people. And I'm just trying to communicate some of the things that I've heard and some of the things that I see based on the number of competitions and number of people that I talk to. The games being on ESPN, from what I've seen, everything about the games being on ESPN is much better than last year in terms of the early communication, the time slots that they have, the availability of it internationally, all of it that I've seen, and you probably have spent more time reading this than me, seems to be a big step forward from last year.
Yeah, there was a lot of I guess a lot of complaints last year about watching it internationally, but it seemed like they're doing it in terms of like games on a number of platforms internationally, including games CrossFit.com, Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. There'll be no ESPN exclusive say it. Exclusivity
Exclusivity.
window. I got it. For international broadcast, viewers can watch the action on the platforms listed above for the entirety of the competition. So that's good. That's so that it'll be available on some of those other things. So, and here's a broadcast schedule. So it looks like Thursday. Right now, it doesn't look like ESPN will be showing the run sequence.
Oh no,
So
probably not. No, not on ESPN. But I
it'll
think
be
that the football stadium does look like it's going to be on ESPN on Friday night, and
yeah.
I'm guessing it's interesting how they have this spaced out because it basically just excludes the morning. So it looks on this like it's the first event on Saturday that's going to be broadcast, but it's not. I'm expecting Chad will be in the morning, probably around 9 or 10, and then they'll have some featured events here at 2 to 4 p.m.
Yeah.
We also get to see that the final is going to be 4 to 6 p.m. on Sunday. Of course, we know that that's going to be the final, the crown champions. And I think that 6 p.m. is an okay. It's an okay time for the game to end. It's a little, maybe an hour later than I would have guessed, but it's fine.
Do you think they'll do what they did? Was it 2 years ago where they would do the team because it looks like ESPN Plus? Well, I don't know if
those are the levels of the details I haven't really looked into.
Yeah.
I just love, and someone on Instagram tagged us and a bunch of other people that said the communication of this well ahead of time. And I think in general, the communication mostly is coming through James, but the CrossFit Games Instagram is doing some too, obviously, is nice. Like I've been a fan relative to previous recent years of the communication.
Mhm. But no, it kind of goes back to the roots. Like ESPN did cover CrossFit for a while there in the earlier years before it went to CBS, and it seems like I think it's a win. Anytime you can be on something on ESPN, I think the more involved you can get involved with ESPN, and you can show that you're viable and that you can be that you can help with filling the gaps in the programming, because programming in the ESPN, it's filling those windows, because they do have ESPN2, ESPN regular, they have the Ocho now, they do have the Ocho, ESPN Plus, they have ESPN News. I mean, they have all these platforms, so programming for it, finding slots for those things, it's important. So when you can slot CrossFit in any one of those, especially the major ones, ESPN Plus, ESPN2, and ESPN, that's a win. It's a win, and it builds those relationships with ESPN. And who knows? Like I said, if you can build those relationships, then maybe they can start asking for more things from CrossFit and actually maybe even helping out with funding some of this stuff, whether it be a reality series or whether it be a 30 for 30 documentary or showing the documentaries or the behind the scenes on a platform like ESPN. So those are all things that a partnership with ESPN opens up for them. I would love to see.
I mean, 4 2-hour windows over 8 days also gives you a good opportunity to display a good breadth of what CrossFit is all about. So I will be curious once the weekend ends to kind of look back and see the, 6, 7, 8 events that are chosen to be in those windows. And I hope that, there's some compelling ones, but there's also a good variety.
Yeah. I think unless anything else breaking comes out, I mean, that's a lot of stuff. I'm going to applaud CrossFit for this, a lot of information coming out, and I love this information, like, hose. They're just spitting all this stuff out. It's great for us. It's great for the community. It's building a lot of excitement for the games. That's what our job is, kind of nitpick here and there and to bring up some of the stuff. So that way, maybe we can answer some of these questions. So if you have any questions or anything that we've gone over, just put it in the chat or DM us, and maybe we can find out the answers. We are communicating with CrossFit. We're actually trying to figure out what type of, waiting on media passes. I know you hear Sevon and everyone talking about it, but yeah, well, hopefully we'll hear that in a word soon. All right, let's move on to something else outside of the CrossFit games. And this is something that you have a little bit of investment involvement in as well, an interest in. So it was announced that I guess it titans in the industry, depending on what you think of WodProof app. If those aren't familiar, maybe you could talk about WodProof app, Brian, since
Yeah, I mean, I worked with WodProof app for many, many years. They were a big supporter of mine, and Adam Grinker was the founder of it. He was like he found me in London at a strength and depth event a few years, 5 years ago, and he's been very helpful and supportive for a long time. And he's, WodProof. Most people know about WodProof app if they do online qualifiers, and they've been pretty progressive in terms of trying to create partnerships over the years. And sometimes it's been frustratingly so. By not being able to kind of contribute at the large scale levels the way that I think that he's wanted to. This looks like a really positive way for them to do that. Competition Corner is the biggest platform in terms of hosting competitions globally and on a year-over-year basis. And the partnership between them means that for those competitions that run online qualifiers, they now have a consistent place to go to use those. One of the nice things about WodProof, and I mean, I know there are some other ones out there as well, but I think in many regards, WodProof has been the forerunner of creating the steps forward in terms of the different options that this platforms provide. Is the timestamp, right? That you can document when you did a workout, and that when the window closes, you can no longer do that workout with the stamp there. In fact, that was used in reviews of people's videos for quarterfinals this year who tried to re-record videos after the fact, and they're like, well, where's your WodProof stamp? The games won't partner with them for their own reasons, but Competition Corner partnering with them is probably even a better opportunity in terms of the frequency of use throughout the year and the spread internationally of people that would use us. WodProof us is how I record online comp workouts. Yeah. And there's a bunch of different, features with WodProof, whatever. So if you're a person that does online competitions, and you're probably, more often than not, they're going to be on Competition Corner. I would also not be surprised if this leads to other partnerships, either between WodProof app or competitors with competitors of Competition Corner. But I think in general, having a collaboration between a company like WodProof that provides a very easy to use format for doing those online qualifiers with Competition Corner that executes that weekly and multiple times per week makes a lot of sense. And I was really happy for Adam and for Michael, to have this collaboration.
Yeah, I think it just makes sense, and it's really cool. We've been, those guys personally. Those are guys we've reached out. Obviously, Competition Corner. Whenever we do these international competitions, we bring up the leaderboards. Usually, Competition Corner. So the format's really easy. Wodapalooza uses most of the major competitions use them outside of the CrossFit Games and Rogue. So it's really cool. I think it's a no-brainer partnership, and I think I'm happy for both of them, and I just can't wait to see where it goes. And hopefully, we can be involved in that process and a part of that at some point. All right. Actually, someone here, CJ. Actually, can you bring up CJ's comment? So that's a perfect segue into TYR Cup. So, if you go to the Talking Elite Fitness page, they have a programming, a schedule when they're announcing the athletes for the squads. And was it 2 days ago? Yeah, 2 days ago, Monday, right? It was Monday, right? Yeah, Monday, they announced Jeffrey Adler as one of the first male athlete and Tia as the second women's athlete. And if those graphics and look very familiar and really cool, it's because they're created by our very own Chad Mueller. So shout out to Chad.
Yeah, I mean, CJ said the TYR Cup team format actually looks super cool. I usually hate teams. It's pretty clear this year that many different competition organizers and outlets are trying to create new and exciting twists on ways to showcase and feature the talent that these athletes have. Reps Ahead being an example, Kill Taylor being an example, TYR Cup being an example of that, FitFest being an example of that. And overall, I think that it's a really positive thing in terms of TYR Cup specifically. They've been pretty intentional about the way that they're dropping information. And now we know that over the next, month or so, we're going to eventually find out all of the athletes that are competing there. Those are not surprising athletes to see on that list in terms of the fact that they would be not invited to compete in something like this. But you never know if people are going to say yes when they're invited a month after the games. They have, a lot of these athletes like having off season. They have a lot of different things going on. So to get, the reigning fittest man on earth and also the 6-time champ Tia as the first two off the bat, it's a pretty legit start.
Yeah, and can we say anything about our involvement in this at all?
We'll be involved later on in the process.
Yes, exactly. So, but yeah, Talking Elite Fitness, they'll be doing live. I believe. Let me pull up that schedule here real quick. Sorry, but they will be announcing the athletes. Though, I guess how many athletes? 14 athletes. 12 athletes. They'll be announcing the 12 that are selected, or that accepted their invites. Let me pull up this programming. Here we go. Sorry, a lot of stuff going on. Yeah, so tomorrow, noon Eastern, the third athlete 3 will be announced. So
this is just counting up to 7. So like if Adler counts as 1 and Tia counts as 2, then this is the schedule for the first 7 total athletes that will be announced. And beyond that, we don't know the scheduling yet.
Yeah. So but what we do know is follow the Wodapalooza page. Once all the athletes are announced, there'll be a voting, I think, for a team captain. And then that'll be up to the fans. And then the team captains, there'll be each team will have 2 captains, I believe. I think they announced that. We're 2 captains, and then those captains will pick the final members, male and female, for each one of those teams.
Will this be broadcast on Wodapalooza YouTube? I'm assuming you're talking about the TYR Cup specifically. I know that they do intend to have a broadcast. I don't know where it would be, but that would make sense to me. And Wodapalooza is spelled with a Z.
Yeah. And tickets are still currently on sale. I think Wave 1 is still going. I would check if you're planning on going. I was talking to Wad Zombie about this. He bought his, I think, the VIP tickets, which include drinks, food, a bunch of other stuff. It's only $400 for the, I believe 3 days. And if you think about it, that's not bad. $400. You're getting, you have your own private area. You can get food, drinks, whatever, liquor, whatever. So Wave 1 ends July 18th. So what'll happen is each wave, the price.
It's especially not bad if you live close enough to drive there and you don't have to fly or get a hotel or Airbnb.
But yeah, tickets are available right now. They're in the Wave 1, and they'll just progressively they'll go up in prices as they kind of go. So head over to Wodapalooza, check out the tickets, I believe the registration for the community divisions are still open too. So start watching that if you're in the California area, or if you want to compete, go and take a look at that as well. So what else we got here? We got so much going on, Brian. Let's talk about why you're in Norway to begin with. Is this the Norwegian Throwdown? How was it?
I mean, I know that this competition doesn't have the high caliber named athletes. There was, I think, one previous team athlete from the CrossFit Games last year that was competing here. She was in the mixed division and on the team that won from Trondheim last year. But I know there are people that watch these things that we do on the road, and a big part of what I'm trying to do here is showcase competition organizers and the things that are happening around the world in these places that we can learn from. Roger is a friend of mine, but he's also a guy that I really respect in terms of what he's created as a competition scene here in Norway. I wrote an article about Norwegian Throwdown, and also an article about his new group, the Wadla group. And we've had him on 2 podcasts this year to talk about how to make competitions profitable and some of the best practices that he's learned and the way that he has approached doing it. Because like me, he has sat back and watched a lot of competitions, and he's felt like there's a better way to do it, specifically in Scandinavia, where he's from. And, this is, there's so many aspects of running competitions that I think is difficult to quantify. And he checks these boxes really, really high. If you love CrossFit, you love watching any of it. If you only watch the best, you don't love CrossFit. Yeah, I mean, there's scales of interest for people. So in any sport, some people will only watch the playoffs, or some people will only watch the championship event, and some people will watch their team in every game of the season, and everything in between that. But I'm trying to tell stories and to create opportunities for people to learn. I think specifically that other competition organizers, coaches, these types of people can get a lot of value, because when I do the live streams of these competitions, it's very different than a broadcast, meaning the broadcast is confined by a schedule. I'm doing the live stream so I can have a free narrative. And as part of the narrative, I can talk about the thought process behind the workouts. I can talk about the details of the floor layout. I can talk about the crowd engagement, or a variety of different things that I know from working with the competition. I mean, he and I did the programming for this competition. And so I know that part of the thing that he was thinking about was, in the final event, to have a little amount of equipment on the floor, as an example, so that the equipment team doesn't have a huge job at the end of the day on Sunday, because they're going to need to take down the floor and the rig anyway. So the final event, if you looked at it, it had a box on the floor, and that was it. And it was still a good test. These videos will be valuable to anyone hosting a comp at any level. Yeah. So that's, I appreciate those comments from Jake and from CJ. And, as far as Norwegian Throwdown goes, like the girls that won the RX women's competition, they were semifinal athletes last year. Like they're, on a team, they're pretty good. I mentioned that there was a woman that went 12th place at the games on a team last year. And then, the guys that won it are pretty young and up and coming guys. And like there were some pretty impressive performances. I also tried some different things. Like they had a lifting event, and I went up into the stands and filmed from a tall angle. I'm still just only using an iPhone. But because I wanted to, a lot of times lifting events, when we're filming from the floor, you're missing things. It's, you want to get the close-up shots. I don't have cameras to get close-up shots and show replays and whatever, but from up high, if there's one person lifting, I can zoom, even with my phone and the system that Rodri set up. But if there's 5 people lifting, I can zoom out and I can still tell you what's happening down there. And then you can key in on the person you want, or you can kind of look across the board and say, okay, there's 30 seconds left. They're all lifting. How many of them are going to hit it? Okay, 3 hit it, 2 missed it. And then what does that mean? So I'm just also kind of experimenting with some different things, because the other thing I want to say about these is that I didn't really know this at first, but I should have known it as being an athlete myself, a collegiate athlete, is the value for the athletes. Obviously, it's nice for their family who can't travel, their gyms, communities who can't travel there, to be able to watch. But for the athletes to be able to go back and watch afterwards and see some of their performances, these are the guys that won. It's, for some of them, it's just cool to be able to do that. And for others, it's a really, really great opportunity to learn. So they can be critical of themselves, positively or negatively, and also watch some of their opponents and see maybe some other strategies or things that worked or didn't work. So I just, this wasn't a competition to highlight the best athletes in the world necessarily, but it was a competition to highlight one of the best competition organizers in the world. And this is a community competition. There was nearly 500 athletes here, and most of them are not, you're not going to see them the rest of the year in any competitions we cover, but you could still get a lot out of watching it, I think.
Yeah, good job at Roger. I mean, he always does top-notch stuff, and he's top-notch host, not just you, but just for any athlete that comes. He always makes sure that they have a good time, and it's a community event. Next on, I think his next event is the Oslo Throwdown.
Halmstad Throwdown in early October,
right.
but and then Oslo Throwdown, which I'm planning to be back for also.
Yeah, which I plan on attending both, if not one of those. Probably more Oslo Throwdown.
Which is going to have 1,300 athletes and at least two fields of play, and both of them will be bigger than this was this year, or this weekend. That's going to be quite a show. I'm excited for that. And this guy in the top right of your screen there, Magnus, he did a stream in Norwegian and English back and forth, but that was like for the Norwegian community primarily, just
Mhm.
by himself. And I believe that I'm going to do the broadcast with him in Oslo, and he's like the guy when it comes to knowing. Like, remember we had the guy in from South America, Sergio? Like, he's that
Yep.
guy for Scandinavian CrossFit.
Okay. So yeah, check out their Norwegian Throwdown. We are still streaming. We still have it on our YouTube channel. So if you want to watch some of those athletes and some of the, especially those team athletes that you probably will see at the games, go and check them out. And we look forward to, doing the Homestead as well as the Oslo Throwdown as well. Speaking of events that will be streaming, another event that will be streaming later on, just real they've been rolling out like the invites. Belgrade games, which will be, what is it, September 6th, 7th, and 8th in Belgrade, Serbia. And the athletes, like we have Lazar, Luca. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Dude, this is a crazy roster of athletes. This year,
Mhm.
this competition is only in its second year, and they are like really, it's impressive. Lazar and Luka Jukic both planning to compete. David Shrunky, Branislav Lenkovic from last year's game, two-time games athlete Yorgos Karavis, Alex Catulus, who's been on the cusp of making the games many times, one of the fittest guys in Greece, regular. Sure. Victor Lunddahl, one of the fittest, maybe the fittest guy in Sweden. Tiago Lucis, the fittest guy from Portugal. Augie Velishnik, fittest guy from Croatia. Misho Papak, who won the Athens Throwdown. Nicholas Sarliotis, who is third place in Istanbul that I was at. Like, and it just goes on the men's side. On the women's side, you got games athletes in Magna Nangonis, Julia Cato, Camila Solomon-Hellman. You have the fittest people from Madeline Pearson she was like in the top 20 at semifinals last year. Fittest person from Estonia, from where's Syria am I have from? Albania, Israel. Norcha Bleeker is going to be there. Julia Blazowska, one of the best in Poland. Like, and there's more and more athletes like this that we know. So this is actually like a coming together of a bunch of these like smaller competitions, premier athletes, especially from that kind of Balkan region, Italy, Greece, Turkey that we've been covering. And it's happening the same weekend as the NorCal Classic. And obviously in North America, the NorCal Classic is blowing up relative to last year also with the involvement of Taylor Self and Colton Mertens. And so I think this is going to be one of the weekends of the season where, like Jake was saying, fans of CrossFit actually have the opportunity to do something that happens occasionally in disc golf, which is have a compelling event in North America, and what I would consider at this point to be somewhat of a feature event. Like, this is like a Madrid championship or a Dubai championship, in some years when they have qualifiers only caliber of roster going on in Europe. And so you can watch both and they don't interfere with each other. And I've been waiting for something like this to happen. It's actually in 2 weeks when I'm in Wad in the Loch, Metcon Rush will be going on. We were trying to find a way to stream both and it didn't make it happen this year. But I love the idea of the fact that there can be a compelling competition in two different continents going on in the same weekend. All those guys that do the primary media coverage in North America are really pushing the NorCal stuff. I would love to be able to partner with them in some way so that they could also promote what's going on in Europe. Because this is like, just quite frankly, at least for now, it's a better roster. Maybe NorCal has more depth to it than I've seen. Obviously, Tudor Magda will be there as well. But this is cool to me either way, that there are two potentially premier events happening on the same weekend in different continents and that people could consume them. Well, I hope they can consume them both. I don't even know if NorCal is going to be viewable anywhere. It wasn't last year.
Yeah, I know it wasn't last year. I think Sevon, I think they were having some plans of possibly doing it, but yeah, I don't know for sure. But yeah. So Belgrade game, September 6th, 7th, 8th. I look forward to it. That'll probably be the first time I see you. Yeah, I plan on at least trying to make 2 of those days. From my coming. I think it's only like a 2-hour flight from Frankfurt.
Well, Turku Tuomiopäivä in Finland is the week before, which is also going to be pretty good, and that's closer to you.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe it's right in between.
I got to get to Germany first. Let me get there, and then I'll figure out my travel schedule once I get there. Ortega will be
I,
at NorCal Classic.
I'm going to try to convince you to come to all of them that I'm at.
I know. Well, if you pay my way, I got you. All right. So here we go. The team captains. I think we briefly hit on this for the 2024 FitFest. It'll be North America, or no, the world versus Europe. So kind of different than what we're normally seeing, where it's like the world versus North America. So bravo on FitFest. Obviously, we know the depth. We know how strong and how much depth Europe has. But there'll be 4 teams, and the European captains for the teams have been announced, and for the world. So the captains are Emma McQuaid for Europe. She'll captain one team. BKG will captain another European team. And then the world teams will be captained by one team will be captained by Errol Lowen, and the other one Ricky Garrard. So,
yeah, we talked about these 4 people being selected for it. I don't know if we talked as much about the Europe versus the world format. They're calling it the Europe versus the world twist. When you think about it in general, I mean, I've spoken about it. I know that some of the top European male disagree with me, but in this format, the world men just has a potential to be unstoppable. I mean, if you get the best 4 guys from Europe, they still might be 5, 6, 7, 8 against the guys from the world that show up there. But they may not do that. The FitFest may not try to invite all the best in the world. Just because they have Ricky doesn't mean they're going to ask Roman and Adler and Medeiros and Vellner or whoever. They may try to, like we talked the other day, get a little bit of diversity in the team in terms of having some youth, some up-and-comers, whatever. It'll be interesting to see who will turn up this year with the event being so close to Rogue. But the other thing is, yes, Rebecca, Rising Tide. I saw your email. I would get back to you. That part of the season is becoming pretty dense with opportunities because Rogue has pushed back a couple weeks. Dubai is going to be on the same weekend as this, basically, or it's going to be on the same weekend as this. And so athletes are going to have to be selective. And so similarly to what we were talking about with NorCal and Belgrade games is that we could have, what we will have on that weekend, 2 compelling groups of athletes competing. The question, similar to NorCal, is it going to be digestible? Is it going to be watchable? We know Dubai will be, it always is, but will we be able to watch what's going on FitFest? And to me, it's like, this is what Lynn's asking. Why don't they do continent versus continent? Yours, North America, Aussie. That's invitational style from a history of CrossFit Games competitions in the off season. So this competition for me increases in intrigue if it's viewable. But if it's not, then it's like last year to me it was just forgettable because if you weren't there, it was nothing. It's like NorCal. It was, cool competition, unique, different. There were some good athletes there last year. Brittany Weiss, Andrea Nisler, Lauren Fisher, Tim Paulson, Sean Sweeney, Malachi Bennett. I couldn't watch it, And if I can't watch it, then it's like, meh. And that's like for FitFest, they could have a great roster there like they did last year. But if it's not watchable, then it's really confined to a small audience. And they're making these announcements only to the people that were on site last year, which is not telling me that they're trying to reel in a bigger market. And it's like, we have so many, like, if you're running competitions like this and you don't see what B.Friendly Fitness is doing, like, there are other people that could do that. In fact, we've been trying to find other people that do what I do, that are willing to travel these competitions and cover these things. There are low budget ways to cover these competitions and make them accessible and digestible for fans around the world that want to watch. And I want competitions like FitFest and NorCal to lean into that because people want to watch them. Yeah, Dubai won last year by being on air. The caliber of athlete, I mean, it was really high in Dubai as well, especially on the men's side. You have Roman, Ricky, and Lazar taking the podium spots. But it didn't matter. Even if they weren't there, you would have been able to watch it. And so that would elevate it. Yeah.
Well, I'll bring up one final point on this before we move on. But I think the appeal for this also is that they realize that it's not a competition. It is, but it's not. Like, it's a fun thing. It's low impact. It's more of a showcase. where they don't have to be, peaking or top form. There's no prize purse at the end. It's bragging rights. I mean, all the athletes are compensated in one way or the other, but no one's getting any more or less because if they're on a winning team or less. But I think it's appealing to athletes, especially as we talked to Ricky. Ricky did 3 competitions last year, and it wore on him, but he had to do that to make some money because he didn't have the games, and he's a competitor. But for Ricky to do something like this, where he doesn't have to, sell his soul, do what Ricky Lee normally does, because we watched that, we saw Ricky, he struggled in that first event, and he spent the whole weekend digging himself out of that hole, and he was putting his, he was exhausted, and he could do a competition like this and just like have fun. And so I think that's the appeal for something like this. But I do agree. I think that's what fans need to see. They need to see athletes in this element having fun. That's what made the Invitational so fun. Is like you got to see athletes kind of decompress, but still be competitive, but not too competitive. Yeah, you'll have Rich Froning at the end of the day trying to win everything, and you will have this and this. But at the end of the day, it's like it kind of opens up. It gives us another view at these athletes. So
yeah, it's and it's compelling for athletes, like you said. It's enticing for the athletes, probably is a better word, because of the guaranteed pay. And last year they were able to even kind of negotiate workouts and movements based on tweaks and things and whatever. And so if they're accommodating that again this year, yeah, that's going to be a nice opportunity for athletes to do that. And I think TYR Cup is like that too. Not every athlete doing every event, so you get these potential little showcase opportunities. Some people love the competition and they want to see the fight for points, the fight for podiums, the fight for prize money. But other people just love watching these athletes do incredible feats of fitness. And both TYR Cup and FitFest are examples, like I mentioned, with Reps Ahead, with Taylor, of giving people the opportunity to compete without having the beatdown of, a Games, a Rogue, a Wadapalooza weekend. Like there's room for both.
Final thing. That's it. I mean, we covered a lot. There's still some things we do want to talk about. We'll just have to push it back to another show. Is that okay, Brian?
Yep.
All right. Final thing is, I don't know if you've probably seen it. We have our games / merchandise out. So if you go to our website, go to the store, click on store, it takes you right to our store page. Had a lot of people ask it. I mean, the purple vintage is my favorite. But our Fort Worth 2024 drop is now live and available pre-orders. I forgot when the pre-orders end.
5 days, July 15th.
5 days. Like I said, we have crop tops. We have, the vintage, or everyone's been going nuts about the vintage stuff, except for that purple. Hey, Brian, I'm going to give you credit. You're the one that said, man, I'm seeing purple and yellow, and it looks great. And, so take a look at that. So you have 5 more days to kind of get that exclusive, one time only for 2024 Fort Worth. Show up if you're going to Fort Worth. Show up in this stuff. It would mean the world to us. That was cool last year, being at the games and seeing so many B.Friendly shirts out in the crowd. I'd love to see the same thing again this year. I mean, our community, the people that support us, it's amazing. It's there's nothing else I can really say about that. But this is high quality stuff designed by our very own Chad Mueller. Like I said, only the best that we have to offer. Sherpa Works does our work for us. So pre-orders are now available. Go ahead, head to the website and pick you up some merch.
Can we, perfectly said. Thank you for doing that. Yeah, 5 days left if you want to order anything. No, we won't have a booth at the games. We're not ordering any extra stock. I don't have any stock on hand. I'm ordering stuff for the people who will work for me. And otherwise, this is probably the only time that you'll be able to get these. I agree with PC that the purple is really, really nice. Can we show just show the BTS from Reps Ahead? Before you go?
Yeah, definitely. Go ahead and talk while I bring it up.
Obviously, we were at Reps Ahead in Colorado. Chad Mueller came out there, and one of the main reasons that he came out there was to produce a little BTS video. He's never really done one of these before Syndicate Crown, so he's relatively new to it, but he's something that he's passionate about. It's a little in-depth, behind the scenes look at the run up to the competition and afterwards. So you see some of the athletes, some of the competition organizers, some of us hanging out, whatever. The kind of the fun, out at breakfast, playing a little disc golf, doing a little workout, these types of things. I really give him a lot of latitude and freedom to just do his thing. And so, it's cool to watch. And it was fun for us to watch because we didn't know what it was going to be. And, get a little behind the scenes from the athletes, but it's also fun for me to see him have that creative outlet. So if you want to know a little bit more about what happened there, hear from some of the people involved and see kind of Chad hone his skills in the BTS vlogging world. He dropped it today and you guys can go check it out.
Yeah, 2 hours. It'll drop in 2 hours. So we watched it. Chad did awesome. I think again, I told him my favorite part was when we went out to breakfast, me, you, Chad, and Kiefer, and just having some conversations. And it's kind of cool. And then us doing the workout with the athletes prior to, and it's really cool. So yeah, go ahead and check that out. Again, another way to support us. Give us a like, comment, get alerts, please, and subscribe as well. I know most of you guys are probably subscribing, getting alerts anyways, but if you could double it up, do it. Yeah, that's it. Again, that's a lot of stuff, Brian. My apologies if I was speeding up. As people know, today's my last day at home. Tomorrow morning I leave to go to Chicago, and then off to Chicago to Texas, then Texas to Germany. But just closing up shop. I'm gonna go hang out with my parents right now, and spend as much time with my dogs. Just did my last workout at the gym. It was 20 minutes on a freaking Echo bike for cows. So, what a way to end it, huh?
Dude, I walked into Oslo this morning, and Joachim goes, "All right, we're doing 20 minutes. The score is max cows," and I was like, "No, and the Echo bike," and then he's like, "No, but there's a buy-in." And I looked, and there was a pig, a yoke, sandbags, heavy dumbbells, a makeshift rescue Randy, a sled, and I was like, "Oh my God, my nervous system is gonna be fried," and then send it on the Echo bike at the end.
Yeah.
So
Games training. You showed up at the wrong time.
No, it was a great day. Saud came in the afternoon. We did Sayer was doing something with Joachim, and then we did a heavy back squat, and then like an Imam Metcon. Saud loves Imams with Andrea. It was a really fun day hanging out with them. I really got to know the teams, the three Oslo teams, a lot better. We don't know. Nobody knows yet about the media passes. And
I think they contacted the people that they denied first. The people that I haven't heard anybody that we haven't gotten denied yet, so that's a good thing. So hopefully we get our media. I mean, we will get media passes. We just don't know. And if someone hasn't said they have gotten denied, more likely they're getting a media pass. It's just a matter of how many media passes they're getting and requesting. So I'm not gonna have media pass.
It's the landscape of managing the media at the CrossFit Games in Fort Worth at Dickies Arena is very different than in Madison with the venues that they had there. So they, at least from our experience, they've been pretty good in communication throughout this year, but we haven't officially been gotten any acceptance of that yet. But it's not within the time frame of when they said that we would either.
Oh, so that's it. Again, thanks for everyone for tuning in. Hopefully we got Joe caught up on all the stuff that's been going on. I think Dave is currently at 52 or 53 athletes. So, and then I think he's going on vacation this week. So I probably expect maybe like 5 more, and then he'll finish
vacation. We're a month out from the games. Where's he going?
Yeah. But again, and as you can see, he's putting tidbits in there. He's dropping little clues and hints in there, so that's good stuff. So I've been enjoying them. I really have. It's been cool. And then also help working with Dave a little bit in terms of setting up some of those. That's been fun too. It's been. I've never had the opportunity to work with Dave in any capacity. We know each other. We've talked, but to actually like help him out with some of this stuff, it's been really cool and enjoyable. So but as it's always enjoyable to be here and working with all you guys and doing all this stuff. So, but yeah, That's all I got. Brian, you have anything you need to say or want to say?
No, I appreciate you taking the time. I had the idea to do this show last night, and you were willing to accommodate, even though it's your last day there. So it's a lot harder for me to do these without you. So I
Oh,
appreciate you and appreciate everyone being here. We had a good live viewers today, some good interactions in the crowd. So we hope that there's some valuable conversations for you guys.
yeah. Again, behind the scenes comes out for Reps Hub in 2 hours, and then we'll do another one of these. We'll do another one of these catching up with Brian and with all the stuff that's going on. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of stuff going on. So thanks for your support as always, and hit that like button, and most importantly, Jay Wadley, be friendly, our friend.